In my last video, I shared some highlights from a recent match that I played against a Trio Q Conqueror team where I was laning against a current #1 ranked player. And even though they may be more skilled than me mechanically, I was able to comfortably lane against him and beat his team largely due to the fact that I picked a hero that countered him and his team. Knowing the right counter picks can help you to beat players who may be more skilled than you mechanically. We'll use Doizer's latest tier list as a starting framework, and we'll look at his suggested counter picks for the current meta heroes, and then we'll look at some more detailed suggestions from pro players in the Taiwan server. So here are Doizer's suggested counter picks. Doizer is a Conqueror player in the Thai server. I do want to layer in some incremental thoughts based off what I've seen and experienced on our North American server. Starting off with the ADC column. Against Hayate, I would also recommend picking heroes with good crowd control as a way to disable his ultimate. Against Elsu, heroes that have a lot of heal and sustain like Helen and Tara also perform pretty well in mitigating Elsu's strong poke ability. For Caphane, Mina's support counters her pretty well, especially in the early game when Caphane is the strongest. And then in lower elos, I would say low master and lower. Yorn lanes really well against Caphane, and he's a lot stronger than her in the late game. I caveat lower elo because in the higher elos, players know how to focus on Yorn, so he's less of an optimal pick. In terms of warriors and assassins like Zuka or Florentino, a support like Aram does really well in countering them, in that it doesn't matter how well the Florentino is at dancing around his flowers, if the Aram can just click a button and completely neutralize him with her ultimate. Against Omen, Elaine does pretty well into Omen in lane, and then Zips S2 can save teammates who are trapped within Omen's ultimate. And in the event that Omen ults Zip himself, when Zip ults, he'll bounce continuously back and forth within Omen's ult circle, creating an endless CC stun within that zone. For mid lane heroes laning against Iggy, I think Raz is a pretty good pick. Laning against Iggy, and also he has the stuns to disable her continuous S1. Against Yue, Raz and Flash are decent niche counter picks. Crixie is, I think, one of the strongest mid lane heroes right now, and she doesn't really have a true counter pick in lane, so she makes for a pretty good early draft pick where you don't have to worry about getting countered. Maganga is secretly becoming a really strong mid lane pick, and what I find works really well against Maganga are heroes that have stuns and CCs that disables Maganga's ability to constantly spam his abilities and build up his passive stack. So I would add Alice support to the list here. Now let's take a deeper dive into the support counter picks by looking at some suggestions from pro players on the Taiwan server. So to the left are the recommended counter picks suggested by Abal, who I think is one of the smartest support players globally currently. And then on the right are some suggested counter picks for the various mid lane heroes. I'll link to their respective YouTube channels in the comment section for those that understand Mandarin. I think Abal's channel in particular is a great resource for support players. In addition to having the right counter pick heroes, it's equally as important to know how to counter build and to adjust the items based off the composition in the enemy team. I go into some more detail about counter building and when to prioritize certain items on some other videos in my channel.